Hello and welcome back to Kiwi Labs Pickleball, everybody. Just super excited to sit down and finally get to make a video again. It feels like when I, started this, company and this videos and everything, it's YouTube that we owe all of our initial success to, is you guys. So I feel bad that I haven't been able to sit down and, do what I like to do most, is talk about pickleball technology and paddles and, what we're working on. So that's what we're doing today. Basically the thesis of this video is like, what pickleball paddle technology can you expect, in maybe the end of 23 or going into 2024. There's so much going on right now. It feels like the wild, wild west as a manufacturer, let alone a consumer. It's like there's new stuff coming out every single day. Like, we have factories approaching us like, hey, here's what we're working on now. Do you want to buy a sample and see if you want to sell it? And most of the time I'm like, yeah, let's give it a try. So all of this is happening and it feels overwhelming on our end. So I can't imagine what like your everyday consumer feels like, everyone's putting out a new paddle with something new and it seems like, oh, I gotta have the latest and greatest. But overall, I think it's a good thing. I think the competition, there's a new paddle company popping up every day, and I think it's good. We're going to help each other. We're going to find out what's working, what's not working. We're going to solve these major issues of delamination and stuff like that together. And I think as a team, the competition will drive costs down. That's something I'm, really hoping to do, because some of these new technologies are expensive, but I'm seeing the prices of potential prices. We don't have anything going on yet, but of the traditional thermoformed paddles, something like the slices, we might even be able to hack into our prices there and get them lower. And I could see that happening with the launch of a couple new paddles to help sustain that. So I'm excited. I think we can get price points down within the next 4 months, 6 months, and that's not going to be us. It's going to be the entire industry. So we're going to get better technology at lower prices, and everyone's going to be happy. That said, what are the new things that we can expect? I don't think everyone would do this, but I think the whole reason these videos were kind of, I'll say, successful, because it helped us launch. I couldn't have done it without people on YouTube, you guys watching these videos and supporting us. So first of all, thank you. But I think what made them interesting was sharing what we're working on throughout the process. So I'm gonna just be sharing not only the new technology that you can expect from other companies, but just straight up our prototypes, what we're working on, what we like, what we don't like, which I think most companies would probably want to hide it until it's ready, but I don't know. I'm just so excited about some of these that I might as well share where we're at. So you can look forward to that. We're going to go through all that stuff right now. One more disclaimer before I dive into this is, just yesterday and maybe 2 days before that, John Q came out with an amazing video. Go check it out. I'm sure you have. If you're watching this, you'd probably watch him first, which is what you should do. Pause this, go watch that. The second video is what I'd recommend going for if you haven't watched them. All about thermoforming technology and carbon fiber and how the peel ply process works, which is crazy because I felt like I had that all down. I knew probably 90% of it, but I learned a lot from his video too, which is crazy. It's ignorant to think you know about everything. So appreciate the video is all I'm saying, and it's really interesting. Go check it out. And now we can start. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to talk about on this video of new technology is, and we'll give a quick shout out here to the boys at Pickleball Studio, Will and Chris, who just did a similar video to this. I'd say they did a technology breakdown, their favorite paddles of the last year. We got a small shout out, no biggie. Anyways, what I really thought that was interesting that I want to touch on as the first trend in technology is Kevlar. And it's super interesting because as they said on their podcast, it's almost like a rebranded Nomax. It's very similar. I think there actually is a slight difference from what I've been reading, but overall very close, if not the same. So we're rebranding Nomax as Kevlar, essentially. So you still have the same pitfalls. It's very loud. I guess that's the biggest one, but there's a lot of pros too, right? It's very powerful. If you've played with a Z5, for instance, It is a popular paddle for a reason, and because you can whomp it. You can send some dingers, if you will, because of the core especially. And the biggest difference in the technologies that we're about to see is combinations of core materials. So I think ProDrive and Diadem have already done this, but we're seeing different variations, and it's stacking and layering the PP, the plastic, with Kevlar and more plastic, and different combos of that. So we're seeing different core uses of the Kevlar, but we're also seeing face uses of the Kevlar as well. So people are weaving it with carbon fiber. People are, just doing straight Kevlar face. All of these are popping up, and it's very interesting. I think we've seen it from a lot of factories popping up as an offering, and we were finally tempted enough to get a couple samples in. We don't have them in yet, but I've played with a couple Kevlar paddles, and basically my thesis on this is very powerful. Really, what I was saying earlier about the Z5, very interesting too. The drawbacks are still the noise and maybe too much power, not enough control. But if you're a power player, and maybe if you can combine this with some other materials, like I see some people combining the Kevlar or Nomex with, some T700 grit. All these, we're seeing them in a lot of variations, and it's not going anywhere. It's getting hyped up again. Keep an eye out, and especially if you're a power player, that's definitely something to check out. I've seen some people, I played against a gentleman with a ProDrive, and I don't know, it was insane how he could just send it. So it's got it's cool. Next technology I want to talk about is flax. I think this one's super interesting. Our fellow Michigan paddle company, Revlin, just a couple cities over here, they are what I thought is maybe the only major brand to be doing hemp / flax materials in their paddle. And it's apparently gaining a lot of popularity because I've seen a couple factories offering that now. So I think it's interesting. I think we'll see more of them pop up because especially with these newer companies, these small startups, because factories are pushing it. And I don't know exactly why, because I'll say this, the second you become a public pickleball brand, you get about a million factory emails of people trying to get you to start making their paddles with them. And some of them are interesting. So, I get a lot of my information from them. So that's where I've been seeing flax being pushed, and it has some good qualities, right? It's very good at absorbing. It's got a nice softer feel to it. It's I think the only downside is maybe it is soft, but personally, I like a softer paddle. We've talked about that before. So yeah, pretty interesting stuff. And I'm excited to see more, maybe combinations of that with Kevlar. It could be perfect. Who knows? So yeah, that's pretty interesting. The next one I want to talk about here is EVA foam. Larry, that's not very new. However, at least what we're working on, I think should be. So this is what we're calling the Hyper Slice. So far from this being like an actual go-to-market item. In fact, I'm going to go in reverse order when I talk about the upcoming paddles of like way in the kitchen, like we need a lot of work to do, which is this one, to maybe sooner to market towards the other end. Yeah, so the reason EVA foam, I think it solves a lot of problems, I think, because it's lighter for people with weaker arms, and people need that, especially the older crowd who still want new technology, still want a nice paddle, but might not be like, that's why I think the older crowd actually gravitates to like a Z5, because it gives you more power without having to, bust your arm for it. And that's why EVA is very popular. It's super, super powerful. And like I said, I think it lends to solving a lot of thermoforming issues, not having that plastic layer in the middle. There's no core crushing, right? So having that, whatever, you get what I'm trying to say. There's a lot of good things about it. So even though it's starting to die down in trends because it's probably not going to be passed by USA Pickleball anytime soon, there's a chance. And what we're working on anyways is a layer of foam plus plastic. So honeycomb plastic layered with foam, like I just said. And our goal with that is to hopefully actually reduce some of the power that foam gives you while still making a super structurally sound, like almost enhancing the plastic. I think like could really, really help things. It could make a really quality paddle that lasts longer, is a little bit lighter, a little bit more powerful without being too powerful. So that's a lot of things we got to get right before we can, start selling that. But hopefully that'll be something called the Hyper Slice in, maybe next summer or something. So moving along here, technology wise, is just talking about where carbon fiber stands right now. I talked about John Q and how he made a great video about just the process of, building a thermoform paddle and what the actual carbon fiber layering and how the peel ply process works and getting the weave impressed. All that stuff. Hopefully you've watched. If not, this might be a little, I'll follow along. I promise it won't be too crazy, but go watch John's video as well. Anyways, so this is the Cannon. Not much to say here other than it's basically going to be our power paddle is the goal. So a little bit thinner, still thermoform, still T700. Hopefully like a dark, cool black on black. This is far from the final design. We're working on some stuff, but that said, I bring this up because it's a T700 carbon fiber. And why I think it's so interesting is we're also working with 3K. So before I get into 3K, the benefits of T700 after just playing with a ton of paddles and potential new technology is it really lends to a nice, very stiff paddle that's where you get, I think, a lot of the thermoform power is from being so stiff. And it's because those really thin layers help compress it more, I'd say. Compress is the right word. And it really makes it rigid and strong, and it's really not going to go anywhere, a paddle like this. What I'm about to say is crazy because I would have never said this without trying a 3K paddle, but now I almost think it's too stiff, which is insane to say, but this right here is something we're working on called the Spike. Now this, there's a good shot. You can see right there the thicker weave of this. And what this does is, I don't want to say it's more like malleable, but it has a softer touch, which is very hard to say because it's still a thermoformed, carbon fiber paddle, but it's got this softer, focused touch. I'd say if you are it's probably not a great beginner paddle, but if you know what you're doing, I've found this to be like my new favorite thing in the entire world. And I think it's because of the 3K carbon fiber. Everyone who's tried it has loved it. But they've all said, it took a couple, a game or two to get into it and really figure out, how it works. But once you, discover that, it's insane what you can do with it. So I think it's really interesting that almost, and I did this too when we built the Slice, is I was like, oh, it has to be T700, it has to be T700. But personally, I'm starting to think that T700 is not the best carbon fiber for a paddle. I think it still it's perfect because right when you get the peel ply grit on it, it creates an amazing texture for spin. And that is like the biggest draw to it. Also, it's nice and rigid and strong. I would even say it's probably in the long run a hair stronger than something like 3K. But then there's even 18K, which is going to be, I would imagine, way too soft. We'll try that next. But I really like where 3K is. And I'm trying to explain this in a not like super nerdy-ish way. I'm trying to say like as a real person what it feels like. And it just feels almost like you catch the ball, you decide where you want it, and then you fling it back. Obviously, it doesn't do anything like that, but that's what it feels like sometimes in the game. Like, whereas when you have a real rigid paddle, it's like if you are slightly turned a little bit and the ball comes, it's going there immediately because it's bouncing off. Whereas, and I think you can get a little softer touch, and I think, what were people calling this for a while? Like dwell time, I think, was a big issue. It feels like there's more dwell time on this. And I think that was deep, whatever. We won't get into that. It's a whole nother video. but I'd say that 3K carbon fiber lends to more dwell time. It's a lot more forgiving. And if you really come through with your shot, it goes where you want it to go. It's really cool. And this paddle I think is really sweet. Hopefully this and the Canon you'll be seeing very soon. That's the goal. How cool is that? Yeah, the colors are maybe a little out there, but that's kind of our whole thing here at Kiwi Labs, right? It's Kiwi because we're sweet, we're fun. You know, we're doing something I think unique with our graphics and colors and philosophy, but Labs because we're trying to do it the right way. We're trying to put the best technology in people's hands at a good price, right? That's my little pitch, which I don't usually do in these videos, but it's hard not to lately. Man, there's so much cool stuff coming lately. I've just looked at how long I've been recording, so this is already way too long of a video, but it's a reminder for me to just keep making these and get back out here again and make more videos. Where are we as a company? I'll wrap up there. We are trucking along. The slice feedback has been great. I'd say I use my slice paddle 60% of the time, and then this one 40% of the time. If it's anything competitive, I still don't quite trust myself on this one yet, so I always go back to the slice because I feel like I just have so many hours on it, and it does what I want to do every time. But I'm getting just some killer shots in rack play with this thing. It's great. So I sent this in an email, but I haven't said it on video or anything. Every single dollar we've made off of this whole endeavor, we have not taken a single slice of yet. So what we've done is one of two things. The first half is R&D, building more product, just, you know, site upkeep, buying more paddles, shipping paddles out. So that's one end, that's normal business stuff. But the rest is, we've been going into our local community pretty heavily. That's our biggest goal. You know, we have to start local and then we can expand out. That's exactly the plan, actually. You know, we're sponsoring as many tournaments as we can. You know, we're donating to our local club here and our parks. And there's so many pickleball facilities popping up, and we're trying to just help out with all of them. And the reason I bring that up is it's just a thank you to you guys, because it feels very cool, I'd say, to just like have our, you know, logo up at, you know, a couple courts, and, you know, being able to write some, I'd say, decent checks to various pickleball communities. We were able to donate paddles to kids clinics, and it feels really cool. So thank you guys. And with that, you know, so thank you. And I don't know, I'm just so excited with where we're headed and pickleball in general. Like, even if we never grow where we're at, you know, and we could just get, I think our goal, our vision, our roadmap, if you will, we want to still do a budget paddle after these ones are out. Something super affordable, but like good technology, just so everyone can get like a sub $50 paddle that kicks ass. That's like the dream goal. But we can't do that without like probably, you know, a higher end paddle, and then two like amazing mid-range paddle, which will be this and the slice. And then, you know, maybe we'll see the hyper slice. That'll be cool. And then, those budget paddles will just be amazing. I can't wait to get that. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry if this video is way too long, but it is what it is, right? Okay. Bye guys.